Hat in Time may not have come out at the best time in relation with Super Mario Odyssey, but Gears for Breakfast was still able to make a fantastic and very fresh platformer starring some of the most entertaining characters in any video game I've played to date. And the diversity of levels was also a wonderful part of this game. However, the difficulty wasn't super high over the course of the game except for Death Wish. However, even in the normal levels, there still proved to be a few levels that stand out a bit in a more challenging way. And that's what I'm looking at today, and counting down what I find to be the 10 hardest missions in the game. Before I begin this list, I want to establish a few rules. I'll be covering all normal timepiece levels in the game across both the base game and the 2 DLC chapters, which gives me a total of 56 levels to choose from. I will not be considering any levels from Death Wish as they are a far cry from the standard missions and will be considered for another list at another time. I also did my best to include at least one mission from most chapters in the game, but some chapters didn't have any missions that would have made the cut. In addition, this is entirely my own opinion. Not all missions in this game were very difficult, but even the lower entries of this list are comparable to the average difficulty curve, but did stand out enough to make the list. Only a few missions in this game were rough to get through, but I was still able to put this together. Now that I've rambled on enough, let's get started. My name is Phoenix, and this is my list of the top 10 hardest A Hat in Time timepieces. Let's go. Mafia Town was a fantastic opening world to a fantastic game, but things start to lean more towards exploration in the last 3 acts. And while I was close to including the Golden Vault on this list, it ended up not being included since it effectively points you in the right direction of each of the vault codes. Heating up Mafia Town, on the other hand, raises a lot of questions in the beginning now that the entire town has been flooded with lava, greatly limiting your exploration. The goal of this mission is to turn off all the faucets connected to the town volcano to then allow water to flow back through its pipelines. Getting around the town to turn off each of the 6 faucets isn't easy and requires you to run on thin platforms and tight ropes, and the faucets themselves are also pretty thin platforms, so you may slip up a bit when trying to land on them. Once the faucets are down, all you need to do is make your way up to the top of the town to claim your prize. This mission is relatively simple considering it is one of the first missions you may tackle in the game, but you do need to think outside the box a bit to get around without toasting your buns. But look at the bright side, it's easier to get through this without getting burned than the mustache gauntlet. Goodness, that level is awful. The time rifts are a nice change of pace from the standard chapters and are a nice way to reward the player for exploring. Relaxing music, beautifully designed levels, a nice test of platforming, and half a dozen band owls following your exact movements for the whole level, making it impossible for you to pause and wait for platforms. It's tricky to define one Blue Rift level from another, but the moon makes it easy, as it gives you a standard Blue Rift level, but now with 7 band owls following you the whole time and mimicking your exact movements. The actual platforming tests themselves aren't very difficult, but you can't afford to take your time here, as you need to keep moving to avoid the band bumping into you and launching you into the pits below. You'll need to activate a few switches to open the path forward, and of course, with silent musicians following behind you. If you keep moving and don't miss any jumps, this level isn't really too bad, but one pause or misstep, and man, music hurts sometimes. Oh, how I miss marching band. Between many people's opinions on the chapters in the game, there always seems to be that one chapter that always comes in last, and that one chapter is Alpine Skyline. And I don't disagree. It isn't that memorable compared to the 3 that came before and the 3 that came after, and not much of the chapter was that fun either. The Twilight Bell in particular was not a mission that I was a big fan of when I first played the game, but on replay I didn't struggle as much as I did a couple years ago. Firstly, getting to the Twilight Bell is a pretty tall order, as you'll need to make use of the Dweller Mask and bells to reveal platforms to get up to the bell and ring it, starting the level proper. The timing to get up is pretty tight, but you're only getting started. With the level started proper, you'll need to make more use of the Dweller Mask with even tighter timing to navigate 2 sets of platforms, one to grab a key, and another to get the timepiece itself. Not to mention, you'll also need to use these negative dwellers which cancel any effects of the Dweller Mask and bells no matter what color platform it is. I'm not a big fan of the Dweller Mask, and this level doesn't make me like it anymore. And this is why I never wear a mask that covers my eyes. Having come back from a cruise earlier this summer, it made me appreciate Arctic Cruise a lot more than I used to. However, it's no secret that this was easily the most difficult chapter in the game, possibly to butter us up for what Death Wish would eventually put us through. And Rock the Boat serves as a great finale to this chapter, albeit a little bit sad. The mission starts with you crashing the SS Literally Can't Sink into an iceberg by messing with the steering, causing it to capsize and sink, and now everyone is panicking.
We're headed straight for an iceberg! All hands on deck!
The conductor is trying to recover his grandchildren, the white seals are useless and adorable as ever, and now we have to rescue everyone still on board. Except now the entire boat is tilted over and flooded, making it much harder to get around, and we have to grab everyone and get them to safety. It's likely you'll need to take multiple trips to get everyone, including the Mafia boss and the conductor. But after grabbing everyone and getting them to safety, the Walrus captain is still on board and seems to want to go down with his ship just like his mentor. But Hat Kid, being the chaotic neutral character she is, refuses to let the captain drown. Except the conductor isn't very happy with us going back on board to save the captain and threatens to leave without us if we can't get back in time. This timer is pretty tight, so you'll need to grab the captain with one arm and book it back to the boat so you don't get left behind. Honestly, I think we all underestimated how strong Hat Kid really is. Even the captain is impressed, like we all should be. There's a handful of missions in this game that tend to be quite famous for different reasons, either by a memorable boss or character, or a nice experience. But one mission stands out for a different reason. I don't even need to give any build up for you to know that the hardest mission in Subcon Forest, and the most infamous mission in the base game, is Queen Vanessa's Manor. This is easily one of the most complicated missions in the entire game from start to finish. Firstly, you need to get to the manor, and it's blocked behind a few walls of ice that need to be blown up. Getting to the manor is straightforward once you're past the ice, but the front door is locked, and trying to enter here will get you assaulted by a headless statue. So you'll have to enter the manor through the basement, and this is where all hell breaks loose. After grabbing a key and entering the manor proper, you take a few steps, and then... So now she knows you're here, and you'll need to collect keys to progress upwards through the manor. Problem is, you can't reach them, so you have to find other ways to get them down. Only issue with that is, those methods make a lot of noise, alerting Vanessa to your location, and getting caught by Vanessa is not only a petrifying scene, but also an instant death, making you restart from the previous checkpoint. It's kinda simple until the last key, when Vanessa takes it with her into the bathroom and takes a shower with it. You'll need to grab this key and run for your life, as Vanessa will immediately chase you down as she exits the shower. Once you escape to the attic, you're home free. The timepiece is just in the chest in front of you. Also, before anyone mentions it, yes, I am well aware of the shortcut that people can take to instantly skip to the attic and ignore everything I just mentioned. For the purpose of this list, I chose to not let that be a factor, since most first-time players would completely miss it, and that would also skew the ranking a bit. So not only is this the longest and most involved mission in the Subcon Forest, but now there's a strong sense of hesitancy in the back of your head the entire time you're in the manor. It takes a lot of guts to continue when you die for the first time in this mission. That Mafia goon in the closet had the right idea. Alpine Skyline tried to be more of an explorative level, but ended up focusing too much on platforming, and that led it to be too linear. But when it comes to platforming, no mission tests your skills with it more than the windmill. This place is massive, and the goal is quite simple: get to the top. But my goodness, is it full too. You'll be climbing up 6 or 7 floors both inside and outside as you ascend to the top of the windmill, navigating spinning and moving platforms of all shapes and sizes and speeds. It's a simple mission at heart, but you'll need to be on top of your game if you want to make it all the way up top. And the platforms get harder to land on the farther up you go, soon only being a couple meters wide and spinning quite fast, on top of some platforms spinning in really inconvenient directions, and quite possibly from the worst possible camera angle. Not to mention, some platforms have an appearance that tends to make them blend into background objects that aren't platforms, making matters worse if it's an already tiny platform. Compared to the last two missions, I don't have as much to say here, as this concept is very simple, but this is easily the biggest and toughest test of your platforming abilities in the base game. Now only one question remains. Why does the theme for the Death Wish version of this level slap so hard? It's fair to say that this game really isn't too difficult to beat, and it didn't have a lot of very difficult levels at all. Even the lower entries of this list could all be swapped around based on preference, as there was a very gradual and shallow difficulty curve throughout most of the game. Well, this is where that ends, as we finally get into missions outside of Death Wish that are actually pretty tricky. Starting with the finale of Alpine Skyline, the illness has spread. After completing each of the 4 main missions, a huge illness infects all of the ghosts around the islands, and now we need to remove them of this plague. We need to go back to the birdhouse, the lava cake, and the windmill to destroy these big flowers in order to defeat the illness, but now everything is a hazard, and not only is navigating this entire area just not that much fun, but now just about everything is trying to kill us. The flowers, lightning strikes destroying platforms and setting fire to the ground, and now the ghosts won't hesitate to absolutely murder us on sight. Not to mention, we have to navigate the entire thing on foot, only being brought back to the main island after everything is cleared. This entire mission is just a mess from start to finish, made worse by how long it takes to finish. This is easily one of the longest missions in the game, and while we don't have a strong sense of hesitancy this time, I don't think anyone else here would want to be that one guy who has to clean all this up. Yikes. That's all I can really say here. When compared to Arctic Cruise, Yakuza Metro was much more chill when it came to its difficulty. Most of the difficulty with this just came down to exploration and navigating a very non-linear path through this giant train station. But leave it to Rush Hour to once again give us an absolutely bonkers finale, this time with a $1 million bounty placed on us. Okay, so I'm editing this and I'm putting all this together and I have all the footage collected already, but when I was getting footage for Rush Hour, it was at this point that I realized that I didn't exactly know if there was a way that you could replay the beginning, so I wasn't able to get the beginning or the cutscene where you get caught trying to get out of the vault. So I'm not sure if there's a way to replay them, but I was not able to for this video, so yeah. So now we need to escape, which is made quite difficult thanks to the fact that the entire freaking metro is out for our head. I mean, it's hard to resist a $1 million bounty, but holy cheese! So once again, we need to run for our life, and this time certain paths are completely blocked off by walls of cats, and we have to navigate through every station that we visited previously with frequent check-ins from the Empress herself. Her rocket launcher isn't playing around, but we need to use it to bait her into firing at these batteries powering blockades in order to keep going. After doing this 3 times in 3 different places, all kind of spread out from each other, we finally see some light at the end of the tunnel. At least, not from the trains. The elevator is our ticket out, so we enter and... oh, she was waiting for us the whole time. So after a short conversation, we are then confronted by the police. Oh, and in case you're wondering what's next, it's actually done here. This cutscene is the last thing that happens. The Empress panics and makes a run for it, and the cop gives us one last timepiece. As much as I would have loved a boss fight from the Empress, possibly to rival Snatcher or the directors, this I can settle with for now. But the lesson here is simple. Desperation and greed really doesn't pay off. The purple time rifts are something else. A trippy walk down memory lane across a few different platforming tests where we need to collect rift pawns to open a vault and keep going. They give good hints to the lore and are quite fun to run through until we get to Arctic Cruise and go into the deep sea. This is a massive jump in difficulty compared to the other memory rifts, and it leads to be quite a stressful mission considering all of the hazards that can be found here. Not many places are safe to be, either by lava, pits, spiky urchins, enemies, or something else. Navigating around to collect enough rift pawns to move on is bad enough, but making matters worse is that there are 9 storybook pieces for you to grab in order to complete the storybook, which tells you about the backstory of the Walrus Captain. It's tricky to get through the first few phases by themselves, especially due to a serious lack of heart pawns, which we really need in times like this. But then, there's the last phase before the finish line. Oh my goodness, is this infuriating. The entire last area is full of lava and impossibly tight and precise jumps to make, and that could lead to all of your progress falling apart right at the end. But the worst part about all of this is that there is no checkpoint at any time. If you die at any segment of the level, you have to start over from the very beginning. They're done taking pity on you. Making it even more brutal is just how long it takes in comparison to the other memory rifts. I guess the storybook is right. We really are lost at sea. Okay, I'm not even going to try and surprise you. Without any doubt, easily the hardest mission in the game is award ceremony. And you may be thinking, but Phoenix, all you do is talk to someone. And that's true. But after the winner of Award 42 gives you the timepiece, this becomes an unbeatable level, literally impossible to access again. And if you try to play it again, you get an insurmountable obstacle course to run through, followed by easily the hardest boss in the game, and you are guaranteed to die
Phoenix?
at least what? You do realize that this is a video about the hardest missions in the game, right? Yeah, this is the hardest mission in the game. What are you talking about? Are you sure you didn't grab the wrong script by accident? I think you might have. Oh. Oops. I guess I did. Well, let's try this again. It certainly is a relaxing time on a cruise. I'd know this myself, both from real life and this game. But what if we wanted to help out around the ship just a bit? Well, then you get the brutal and unforgiving gauntlet that is ship shape. I certainly have a lot of respect for real life crews on a cruise ship because the number of things we need to handle in the span of a few minutes is absurd. This mission tasks you with completing jobs all around the cruise ship, from delivering food to cleaning up boxes to babysitting the conductor's grandkids, you name it.
New tasks are constantly popping up all over the place, making it difficult to find exactly the right ones to do, and to top it all off, there's a time limit. If we take too long to complete these chores, the Walrus Captain will get furious with us and kill us, so we need to make an absolute break for it as soon as possible to complete any job we can until we reach the required number to pass. Oh yeah, and about that number, 18. You heard me right, 18. We need to complete 18 chores in order to gain access to the Lost and Found where our prize lays. Any task completed will give us extra time, but any task left behind will see us lose time. And it just goes on and on as we're constantly rushing to get from point A to point E to point Enye to point Itchy to pointing my face towards the desk and smashing it into it over and over again. And we still haven't talked about the hazards and limitations in getting around. In the kitchen, dining room, and laundry room, there are obstacles that can easily trip you up if you're rushing, which is what you're supposed to do. And not to mention, some rooms are easier to get to than others, so some tasks are a huge pain to complete if you don't know where to go or how to get there. Take it from me, please do yourself a favor and map out the ship ahead of time. This will save an immeasurable amount of headache when trying to do this mission, so please don't forget to do this. I just want to go back to my room and take a nap.
Thanks for the help. This is your captain speaking. You can stop now, pup. Come back to control, I guess.
"6 years later, and I have to ask this. Am I the first person to ever make a video on this topic? I've searched this on YouTube multiple times and never saw one video about the standard missions ranked by difficulty, so I jumped at the chance to do this. And while it's far from perfect, I'm very happy with the end result, and had a ton of fun making it. So with all of that said, thank you all so much for watching to this point. If you enjoyed this, then first, be sure to leave a like, and second, comment peckneck down below so I know you made it to the end. And if you want to see more from me in the future, be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. My next list is going to be huge, as I rank all bosses in Cuphead from my least favorite to my favorite. And of course, if you have a difference of opinion for this list, then feel free to share it in a nice way in the comments below. That will be it for me for this video. I will see you next time. Farewell.